is there something off about this place?
Everyone is here for you.
What's going on, y'all? It's Liam Crowley with Screen Rant here with the Ayatollah of Rock and Roll, the Ring of Honor World Champion, and the star of the new film Dark Match. It's Mr. Chris Jericho. Chris, thank you again so much for taking the time.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. And I got to ask you first off the bat, when I watched the trailer for this movie, when I watched the full thing, I know you've had an experience, something akin to this, going to an indie booking that just completely sketched you out. What was that story from early on in your career?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't actually go to an indie booking and ended up involved in a satanic sacrifice. But, that's one of the things that I really liked about the movie is the fact that I've been there before to some of these places to where you travel for hours and get to a show where, there's the college beer bash in town on the same night where there's 1,000 students drinking beer at the college and 7 farmers at the show, literally where you can see one person here, 20 empty seats, one person there. Talk about terrifying. When you're first starting out, I might rather be in a satanic cult sacrifice than having to wrestle in front of 7 people. But I like that idea because it could happen, in the world that we lived in, especially when we started out. And also, too, for a guy like Mean Joe Lean, I mean, he's been around and he's still doing this. And I know guys like that as well, guys that are still, in their 50s and 60s, still making the town where it's like, gosh, like you're still doing this and still at the same level. So there's a lot of that going on, which I could really relate to, which I think helped to be able to play the character the way that I did.
Yeah, something I feel like you didn't relate to as much so is the character of Prophet. This dude is something I've never seen before. I mean, I've been around the block. I've been to a couple indie shows. I've seen some sketchy promoters out there, but nothing quite like who you portray as Prophet. Just tell our audience about him. What's his deal? What's his goal here?
I really like the character because there's a lot of layers and a lot of depth to it. You think the movie's going one way as to why he's doing these things. Then it switches to another twist, and then it switches to another twist, and you realize, oh, he's trying to raise Satan from hell with these sacrifices that he's performing. And I like that. I think when the movie is done, when Dark Match ends, you realize like that was a really cool, twisty and turny ride that took me to a lot of different places that I didn't expect I was going to be taken into. And whether you're a wrestling fan or not, or a horror movie fan or not, I think it's just a well-told story. And I really like that because I usually don't really lend myself to doing wrestling-related projects because I just find it a little cliche to do that, like wrestlers versus zombies or any of those types of things. But when I got this script, I thought, well, okay, I was a big fan of Lowell Dean, who's the director and the writer from a series of films he did called Wolf Cop, which I thought was really well done. So I read it through and I realized this is so much more than a wrestling movie, because most wrestling movies aren't very good anyways. This was way beyond that. And that's what kind of got me really interested into wanting to be involved in the film and really delving into what the Prophet was.
Yeah, and it is a perfect amalgamation of your worlds right now, because obviously a lot of audiences, horror audiences specifically, will recognize you from the Terrifier films, and all wrestling fans know you from your time in WWE, your current run in AEW and Ring of Honor. When it comes to acting here and doing these horror heavy slasher films, did you take anything that you learned from Terrifier, that being Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3, and find yourself bringing it into Dark Match?
I don't think so, because you want to play every character differently. We actually filmed this before Terrifier 3, and Terrifier 3 is a little bit more of a smaller part, and it's about a guy, obviously that character is completely terrified, no pun intended, about being in this, insane asylum with these monsters that want to rip his face off. And then in Dark Match, I'm the monster, who wants to basically, destroy the world by opening up the gates of hell. So there's some differences there, and like I mentioned with Dark Match, it's a much bigger role, and much more subtle in a lot of ways. I mean, Terrifier 3 from the get-go is, what you're getting. It is literally batshit crazy from the first scene to the last. Whereas Dark Match starts a lot differently. It's a lot more of, just like I said, it's almost like a road story about these small time ne'er-do-wells, and then it takes many twists and turns till you realize like they are literally fighting for their lives to survive this horrific night, and the guy behind it is hoping to take their lives to literally raise the devil. So there's a lot more of a different vibe to it than Terrifier was. But every role that you play, you take experiences from the filming of it, from the direction, from the director of photography, all of that sort of stuff. Every part you play makes you better as an actor.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least from the films of yours that I've seen in the past, this is the most amount of screen time I've ever seen you have. So you really are very much a leader on screen and on set. Random question here. You ever play Grand Theft Auto?
I haven't, but I know Stephen Ogg is one of the big stars because Grand Theft Auto is very popular, right? And he was, because everyone's like, oh my gosh, because for me, I know him from Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, I know him from Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, no, whenever I see him in the trailer, I remember him from Walking Dead when he played Simon too. It's just like, I played that game for hours as a kid back in like 2013, and like I can't not separate the two. Chris, you're a very busy man right now. You're fronting Ring of Honor as Ring of Honor continues to expand and grow. I know that Ring of Honor has always looked for that streaming deal, and I know with AEW now being on Max, the bridge has been built to a streaming service. Do you know the current status of Ring of Honor's tape library and whether or not we're going to get that programming on a different streamer anytime soon? I
really don't. I mean, I know that there was and is heightened talks about Ring of Honor from what I've heard from Tony. Nothing obviously done or set in stone. I think there's a few offers out there, and he's trying to look for the best one. So, because like you mentioned, there's a full tape library, there's a full roster of guys and girls that can kill it. We saw that at the Hammerstein Ballroom last month. So, it's one of Tony's goals. And usually when he sets his mind to something, he accomplishes it. So I fully expect there'll be some sort of advancement for Ring of Honor very soon.
Mm-hmm. And, you could be a part of that. You also might not be a part of it. Your contract expires later this year, if I'm not mistaken. This is your second AEW deal. And, you've been with AEW since the company's inception. I know it's only January, but have you already begun to think about what your wrestling future looks like when the fall comes around?
I mean, you always think that. I think it's actually my third AEW contract. I think there was a redo of one of the contracts, but either way, it's been, 7 years, 6 years. Yeah, it'll be 7 years at the end of this year. So, I've always said that I'm still enjoying what I'm doing. I can still do it at a high level. I feel great. I look great. So, I mean, there's no reason to stop right now. I mean, obviously my schedule at this point in time isn't what it used to be wrestling wise. I think last year I had 32 matches maybe, which is probably a few more than I would like to have, but I think I'm still good for, 20, 25 matches a year for a couple more years. And I can be on TV, every week if need be. Contrary to popular belief, I don't demand to be on TV. I get booked by my boss to be on TV. So there's a lot of stuff you can do in the business nowadays. Because it's all about television, and it's such a star-driven business. Sting just retired last year at 65, and if he wanted to stay, he could still be here and still be a top-level guy. So, from going to see the Stones 4 times this past summer and seeing Mick and Keith at 80 and 81, I think they might be 82 and 81 now, and they're still great. It's like times have kind of changed as to what people should or shouldn't do when they get older. And if you're still good and still look the part, then why not continue?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, at 54 years old, you're still moving like you did in your 20s. So it's pretty impressive. I do want to ask though, in terms of your wrestling future, if and when you do hang it up, I believe it will be.
I will at some point.
At some point, it will happen. Is the ambition to continue in the industry behind the scenes, or when you retire, when you hang up the boots, are you set in sail?
For me, like I already work a lot behind the scenes in AEW. I do a lot of stuff that people don't know. So there's always going to be that element. I also like being on screen because I think there's a lot I can add to, even if it's not in the ring, whether it's commentary or whether it's managing. Maybe it's something I might look into doing. So we'll see. We'll see where I'm at. Obviously there's a lot of other things going on too. So it's all delegating your time. But for right now, I mean, like you mentioned, this is the last year of my contract, and I plan on going full force and crushing it this year, just like I did last year and the year before that. And then when that year is done, I'll reevaluate and see where I'm at and see what I want to do and kind of go from there.
Have we heard Break the Walls Down for the last time?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to use that even if I did go back to WWE. It seems
Chris,
like
it's such a banger though. It's so good.
Oh, but it's just such a 90s thing. I think people to this day are still yelling at me to bring back Judas, which is why I took it away for a while, because people like singing. You know what I mean? They like singing. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I think in today's modern wrestling climate, people would learn the words to Break the Walls Down. They learn the words of Voices, and they never did that for Randy.
I know. I don't know if I like it though. It just seems like so like so it's such a Y2J thing, which was amazing, but that was 25 years ago. Step into the now, man.
Well, it'll always be in my workout playlist forever and always. One final question for you, Chris. On the film front, on the acting front, I know guys like you, and I've talked with Copeland a bit too, you're very selective about your projects because, you know, you don't necessarily need the work. You don't need the opportunity. Do you have anything else in the works right now beyond Dark Match and beyond Terrifier 3?
Well, that's the hilarious thing. It's like, you know, Dark Match has all this brouhaha because it's, you know, it's debuting on Shudder on January 31st, and it's got a lot of great reviews, and Variety loves it, and everybody loves it. And then Terrifier 3, #1 movie in America. Who'd have thought I was in the #1 movie in America? And then when all that dust settles, I got nothing. So there's a couple things that I've been working on, but you know, that's the thing with acting. You just got to wait until your next part comes up, and it will. So something will come up because I've been on a good run. I did 4 movies last year, between, you know, a couple movies on the Hallmark Channel and the 2 horror movies. So we'll see. And when something comes up, like anything else, if I feel it's a fun role that I can add something to, I'll be happy to do it no matter how big or small it is.
Yeah, very much so. Lots to look forward to. Obviously, this film hits Shudder on January 31st. You can catch Chris Jericho on AEW programming every Wednesday and Saturday, as well as on Ring of Honor. You're on all the screens, Chris. You're hard to miss these days. So congrats on all your success. And I think this one's going to be a hit.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
My children, 5 matches,
Crowding the talent.
5 offerings.